for around 30 years, I thought I was, I guess you could say, failing at collecting sports cards. But then something happened that I discovered something that completely changed the way my outlook on sports cards and how I approached the hobby and it really made a big difference on what I was doing with this entire my collection, other people's collections and things like that. Today I'm going to share I guess the lesson that I've learned over the last 30 years of collecting so you don't avoid the same pitfalls, and hopefully this will take your collection, I guess, in the next level. So I really wanted to kind of make this video. Obviously, I want to make it in the snow because a lot of you guys don't see, snow a lot. You might be down south or things like that. So I'm like, man, I got it snowing. We have off from school today because I'm a teacher, and I'm like, I gotta make a video for you guys so you can kind of see the snowage in the background because it's a good like little setting in the background. So the first thing that I was talking with Johnny and Scotty and myself about was the lessons that I've learned over the years of collecting, maybe when I was a kid compared to when I was like, out of college. And then, when I have kids of my own. I never thought that I never understood, let's rephrase that. I never understood the grading process. I never understood, I just thought like the grading process just was like, bending corners and the card's bent. And, as long as the card's not bent and the corners aren't bent, then you're going to get like a PSA 10. That was my thought process. Probably back because there wasn't much grading when I was a kid, but more so back when out of college and things like that, when I started collecting hockey cards and baseball cards and some football cards. I'm like, oh, grading, okay, these corners are bent, so I'm probably not going to send that away. This is pretty good, so I'm going to send these cards away, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all these cards back, and they're like PSA 7, PSA 8. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, why do I have this Shohei Ohtani from Big League Baseball that's ranked out of 25 or numbered out of 25, and the corners aren't bent? As soon as I got out of the package, I put it into um, plastic and then send it away exactly how they wanted to. And I get it back and it's a PSA 8. Like, what the heck is going on? So I didn't understand that it was centering, like how things are centering. And I bought cards by just looking at, okay, are the corners good? Okay, I'm going to buy singles on eBay because probably singles is probably the way to go. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But the corners look good, so I'm just gonna, I never looked at, okay, was it centering? I thought all cards were centered. I thought, when you get them from Tops, like the only thing you have to worry about is corners. I never thought you had to make sure they cut them the correct way and things like that. I'm like, isn't that like a QC control, like quality control, quality assurance thing? Like, okay, if I send this card out and it's not directly centered, trash it, make another one. I don't understand, but that's just me. And, trying to run a company and hopefully, you're sending out, perfectly minted cards. And that's just the way that, I thought a company would be run, but I guess not. But car singles, buying car singles, the condition, you have to look at if you're on eBay, if you're on Facebook Marketplace, if you're on wherever you're buying cards from, TikTok, you want to make sure that you're looking at the condition and if it's centered and if it's a certain color and and they're not faded and all different kind of stuff that I never thought, back when I was in my 20s, I just thought of corners. So that's definitely a lesson that I learned. Timing is another lesson that I learned. I go in and I try to, okay, well, Shohei Ohtani's big, Ellie De La Cruz is big, CJ Stroud is big, Wemby is big, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get these cards, I gotta get them for my collection. Probably not now is the right time to buy those cards. Hype and overpaying and like buying in season is probably not the best thing to do. I made a video maybe a month back and it was like, when should you buy sports cards? Well, like baseball is probably a good time to buy sports cards now because yes, the season is approaching, but we're like winter workouts are done. I'm not winter workouts. I'm thinking about my kid of Tyler doing winter workouts for baseball, but winter meetings are done. And it's like on the lull area now. So baseball cards, you might be able to get cards that are a little bit more cheaper than buying in season when they're doing better, or even buying in season when maybe when that person or player is in a slump. That's a good time to buy. I just bought things when I like, oh, my friend got this Bo Jackson card. I'm going to go and buy a Bo Jackson card. Not thinking like this is most it's ever going to be in price. So like timing is very important, and that's definitely a lesson that I learned over the year. And updating yourself on when these things are releasing. Okay, when is the Topps 2025 releasing? Maybe I want to get a Topps 2024 before that. And like I didn't know when release dates were, and thinking about release dates is very important. And what we're doing here that I haven't seen anywhere else is doing like a weekly email to send out to you guys so you know when release dates are, you know when restocks are. So if you want to get part of that, comment insider and we'll send you a link and you can be part of that, and you can put your email in there. We're not stealing email addresses. We're not sending you spam. It's just us trying to get you guys better, at learning, when things are coming out or when things are being released and when things are being stocked. That's the main thing, because there's nowhere on the world that does this. So sign up. There you go. Okay. But that goes with timing. Market trends. Man, market trends. I mean, looking at market trends, like I didn't know about, I didn't consider demand. I didn't know that, if there's a high demand on a card, I just went in there and bought it. So like you have to look at like, what are the popular cards? What cards are going for a pretty good price now? Do you want to buy them now? Or maybe do you want to wait? Maybe the person gets hurt. And we don't want people to get hurt and get hurt in the thing because they're very, very important players like, Tom Brady or Wayne Gretzky or Stroud or, whoever, like these quarterbacks or great star players in the NHL and MLB and basketball. But if they get hurt, their value may drop a little bit. And that's when you might want to swoop in there and buy a single of that card or whatever it is. You might get a little bit more, discounted price with that being considered, right? So like market trends, you have to look at that. And that definitely was not something that I learned or looked at over the years when I was collecting until, most recently. The last thing was quality over quantity. Quality over quantity, meaning I've been talking to people on like on our chats and things like that. Is like if I have $1,000 to spend on sports cards, what do I want to do? How do I want to spend that? If I have $1,000 and I go on eBay, I can get exactly the cards I want and probably all parallels without even involving base cards. And then when I'm done, I may not have as many cards, but my collection looks pretty dang good. If I just go out there and buy $1,000 worth of blaster boxes, I might not even get my favorite player in there. So depending on what you want to do, and I know buying singles is not as exciting as opening blaster boxes or opening hobby boxes or opening mega boxes or even opening hanger packs. But at least if you want a pretty good collection that you want to show off, you want to have a lot of parallels. You want a lot of inserts, autos, numbers, and buying what you want at a certain time. You might get more bang for your buck compared to just buying like thousands of cards and having all these cards in your house, and then which ones are good, which ones are bad, and then they're all base cards. 95% of our base cards, and base cards are good. I mean, my kids love base cards. They have no idea. Ella, who's 7, she has no idea about a Bryce Harper base card versus a Bryce Harper parallel card. But she saw Bryce Harper and she's like, "Oh, that's awesome! I got a Bryce Harper card," or whatever. So I mean, for kids, I mean, you want to build your collection that way. But for grown adults and you're building collections, you want to have a great collection to use. Maybe just looking at singles and buying, using money to buy singles, you can get parallels and inserts. And that's something that I didn't do over the years. Even most recently is I would go there and buy a blaster box here and there. I would buy a mega box here and there. Didn't really buy the hobby boxes because they're so expensive. But you're not really knowing what you get, and you're not knowing what you're going to get in the future. But at least you're going to get like 95% base cards. So you're not going to get a lot of parallels, and some of the parallels in blaster boxes now are like really, really low end parallels compared to hobby boxes where you might get more high end parallels. But again, you're spending more money. So at the end of the day, that's the things that I learned over the course of over the last 30 years. I wanted to put in there like the evolution of the hobby. I teach evolution in class, right? Evolution is the change over time and how things change over time. Sometimes it's a fast process. Sometimes it's a slow process. For animals, it's a slow process. But for evolution of sports cards with technology, things are changing so rapidly. The adaptations to changes in the hobby, box wars, breakers, prices, autos, numbers, more inserts, more parallels, compared to what it was in the 90s, it's totally different. And the 90s really weren't that long ago. So even the late 2000s is way more involved than the late 2000s and the early 2010s. So it's changed a lot over a short amount of time. And over the last few years, breakers are taking over. And like, what's happening with that? Now, breakers, made a video, I made a video, a couple weeks past, and how like breakers are destroying the hobby. Breakers are involving a lot of people. Breakers are getting excitement into the hobby. But what kind of excitement is that? Is it like excitement that, you want to go after that hype card and that's all you want? So, but it is good that people can get into hobby boxes that are worth thousands, and you can get in there for $50 and try to, get some gambling going and try to get a pretty good card that you might not get out of a blaster box or a mega box. So breakers are good and bad for the hobby, but they are changing the way that we are looking at the hobby and things like that. So it's a little bit crazy. Online is changing. eBay, Facebook groups, Discords, all that stuff. That's totally changing because, back when I was a kid, there was no online. So we had to go to card shows. We had to go to hobby shops. I don't even know if there, like, even around my area, there weren't many hobby shops. I don't even remember where I even got cards at. But, there wasn't any Walmarts, there wasn't any Targets that sold cards. So, I mean, I don't even remember when I was a kid, 10 years old, 9 years old, where I really got cards at, maybe the stadiums and things like that. But, I mean, looking at these things, and online is totally changing now where, there's no interaction between people other than like typing on a computer. So it's a little bit different. And how's that going to affect the market in the future? Another adaptation that I wrote down was tracking cards in real time. Back in I keep on saying back in the day, and it wasn't that long ago, but back in the day, you had these Beckett books, and it would say, okay, this Wayne Gretzky is worth $3.99. Then you get the 2020, or you get like the 1985 one, 1991. It'd be like worth like $5, and it was like over the year or over the month or whatever that would be, they would update it. But I mean, now it's so real time. Like you can go on eBay. Okay, this Wemby just sold for $15. Okay, and the last month it sold for $14, and the month before that it sold for $15. Yeah, whatever. You can kind of know what you're getting and know what the price point is. It's very easy to do that as long as you know how to work the system. And tracking cards in real times. 130 points on their way. Card ladder. Looking at sold things on eBay, you can see how much these cards are going for, and if you want to sell them or if you want to buy them, you can kind of get a good judge on what's going on. It's a lot easier today than it was back when I was a kid. That's how the hobby is definitely evolving from there. Social media, like I said kind of before, but like YouTube, look, I'm here talking to you guys about all this card stuff, right? 20 years ago, that's not possible. 15 years ago, that's not really possible. And you learn from experts. Not saying I'm an expert at all to anything, right? But I'm trying to learn, and trying to learn from other people on YouTube as well, and friends and card shops and card shows, and talking to people back and forth and learning their experiences that are a little bit older than me and what they saw in the 70s and the 60s with cards, and even kids now that are born in the 2000s, and seeing what they expect. And like I talk to my students all the time about all this stuff, and what do they expect about cards, and and what is their psyche about what's happening with card market and things like that. So like, community is so important, and you do build a good community around the world. Now, before it was like, you build a community in like California, you build a community in like your city or your state or your community, whatever that would be. And now it's like, I can talk to people in Japan and talk about, sports cards and things like that, which is pretty cool. But like, never in a million years did I think I would be here having 1,200 plus subscribers talking about sports cards to you guys and having fun doing it and having a good, talk back and forth in the comments and things like that, which is awesome. And, a year ago or 2 years ago, I never thought that I would be here doing this. And that's, definitely how the hobby is evolving. And hopefully that's being having more experts and more people to talk to. That's also advancing the hobby in the right direction. So the last thing that I wrote down was like the turning point. Like, what was the turning point for me? Like, when did my mindset shift? Going back to like, okay, I failed at collecting sports cars, for 30 years. When did I figure out how to collect? What did I learn over the last, few years on collecting, and how did I change my mindset of this? And the turning point was a couple things that I wrote down. It wasn't just one thing, But I wrote down a couple things, and the first thing was like quality over quantity, like I mentioned before. I would just buy in bulk, buy in bulk, buy in bulk, have a section. Maybe I get a Otani card, or maybe I get an Ellie De La Cruz card. Maybe I don't. But now I'm not really buying many blasters anymore. I'm not really getting into like breakers and things like that. I'm just going after singles. And I, over the comments with talking to you guys as well, singles is like the way to go. If you want to build your collection, you want to get parallels, and you want to kind of up your collection's value, singles is definitely the way to go. That was the first thing I wrote down. Having kids was definitely a turning point. Having two kids of myself, teaching, understanding how kids think and stuff like that, and how my mind, thought differently as I age. But now going back to thinking like a kid, how did that really change my mindset around from like collecting over 30 years? You know, I would, we would what we now do this, and with my kids is we rip packs for fun. I do a little game um, in my classroom where they have to get a certain amount of points, and they have to do these different homework assignments, and they get points. And then at the end of the month, we open a treasure chest, and we pull names out of a hat, or out of a little hat. And whoever gets to pull names, I have like different kind of stuff in the treasure chest, and of course, I have sports cards in there. And kids are going after sports cards all the time. It's like, I had like the Halloween packs, and it's like the basketball, the baseball, whatever that could be, right? And they're pulling these things all the time, and they're like, this is like getting them into the hobby, which is pretty cool in a school setting, but also helping them understand what's happening with that. And ripping packs for fun, not just money. I got into the area of like, I want to rip a pack, and I want to find this amount of money. I want to find this important card, and I'm not finding cards, and I'm getting like, oh man, what am I doing? Right now, I'm just kind of doing it for fun. My daughter wants to rip packs all the time. It's like, can I open this pack? I'm like, yeah, sure, right? And we do it all the time, and just having fun with it is very, very important to the overall psyche of what you're doing, compared to like trying to get this card, trying to get this card, trying to get this card. You put a lot of pressure on yourself, and that's not a really great thing. So I changed it. This brought me success because I don't have much success, but when the success is my kids asking to rip a video or make a video or rip a pack, and how they understand the money, and how this card is worth this much, this card is worth this much. We put this one in plastic. We don't put this one in plastic. Helping them understand that's what it's all about. Right there. So next thing I wrote down was finding a community. I know this video is kind of going long, right? But I talk a lot, and hopefully you're still with me to the end, because it's a pretty cool thing, and to help talk to you guys about it. And anything you ever want to chime in, some people stop the video and write a comment in there about what their turning point was, or what they think the evolution of the hobby is going. Shoot us messages in there all the time, and we get back to you. And it's a great back and forth with you guys, and that's the whole reason why we're here, is to make a community. And that's going into the last thing, is finding a community. Sorry, that's going into finding a community. Finding events, finding forums to talk to. YouTube, you found me. Going into that community aspect, and it's very important to bring people in with you and talk to people about all this stuff. And okay, what card is good? What card is bad? What blaster box is good? What blaster box is not good to get, and things like that. What cards can be good in the future, or what cards in the past are going to eventually get. So all that stuff you can talk to people about, and that's building a community, building camaraderie between people, talking to people, trading with people. That's the whole reason why this sports card was here when I was a kid, and hopefully that's coming back a little bit more with online, like we talked about before, in evolution of the hobby. Handling disappointment. You have to be able to handle disappointment. If you're opening blaster box, guys, and you're opening like Target hanger packs and mega boxes, you have to be able to handle disappointment, because you're not finding a lot of good stuff in there. Even hobby boxes, I mean, you might spend I'm not saying to do this, and I don't do this at all, but you might spend $500 on a hobby box, or $1,000 on the hobby box, and you might get nothing. And that's just the way Topps and I know all these Panini and all that stuff are doing this. But I mean, it's a gamble, and you have to be able to handle disappointment, because you might have more setbacks than not. So you have to kind of, like I said, going back before, go for the fun of it. Go for ripping a pack, so with kids, or your cousins, or your parents, or whatever that could be, and that'll take more of the disappointment out of it. So try to do that, and that might help you out. And then the last thing I wrote down was a very, very important thing that I saw that I didn't do before was investing in due diligence, DD, they always call it, right? Knowledge. Know what's good, know what's bad, and how will that affect the market? How will that affect your price of your cards? How will that affect your collection? And all that good stuff. If you do these four things that I didn't do when I was a kid or even years ago, is like quality over quantity, you know, understanding how kids want to do this and how they have fun and bring the fun back in it, community, not getting all bent out of shape with not getting a good box, and investing in due diligence and knowledge. All that stuff will help you further this community aspect and help you further, your mindset into a positive mindset when you're doing all this stuff and you're opening all these packs, because sometimes you're not finding a lot of good stuff. But other than that, again, I said before in the video, beginning of the video, if you're still with me, awesome. We were doing that Insider Club, Sports Card Insider. And if you're trying to find out when things are out on the stores or when the release dates are, comment Insider in the comments. We'll send you a link. If you don't want to comment, that's fine. Other people send in there. You can click on their link too, and that'll bring you right to the same page. Put your email in there, and we're compiling a list now. We're going to be sending out. We already sent out one list. We're sending out a couple lists, like once a week. Once every couple of weeks to see when release dates are, when restocks are, and that's going to really help you guys out into if you want to try to find some things in the stores or at least in retail. But other than that, again, always comment, always help, not help us out, but always comment and always, say your piece and we'll get back to you. It's great to talk to you guys, and we appreciate you guys watching. I know this video kind of got long and I kind of ramble a lot. You guess you get used to that if you're watching this for like our 80th video, whatever it is, but hopefully you guys appreciate the snow outside, and we will talk to you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Peace.